Hello, good morning or afternoon, everyone. My name is Greg Hemmer, and I'm a partnership manager here at Shardus. Excited to be speaking with you all today, and thank you for taking the time to join us. Today happens to be the 12th anniversary of the Bitcoin white paper being published. I think it's very exciting over the past 12 years to think about the progress that has gotten the industry to where we are today. Today we'll be presenting updates we've made in the Shardus development progress. We'll be presenting a new front end for the Liberdus interface, and we'll be also demonstrating an explorer we've built, much like Etherscan for Ethereum, that can be used for the Liberdus network. My name is Greg. I'm a partnership manager here at Shardus, and we would love to answer any questions you have throughout the presentation. We've dedicated time at the end of the presentation to answer those questions. So if you're attending the presentation today, please click on the YouTube link and go to the YouTube website where you can ask questions throughout the live stream, and we'll make sure to get those at the end of the presentation. For those who haven't attended a Shardus update event previously, we have been prioritizing the development of Shardus since 2017. Each quarter, we present an update in the Shardus software and the development of Shardus. So very excited to take you today through what we've been working on over the past quarter. I'll pass it over to Omar now, who can begin the presentation. Take it away, Omar.
All right, thank you, Greg. Can everybody hear me all right? All right, thanks. I'm gonna first give you guys a little background about the Shardus project, about Liberdus, because I know there's a lot of people that join our event each time that don't know about what Shardus is and what we're doing. So I think it's good to spend some time to kind of bring those people up to date, and then after that we'll get into what we've been doing this quarter. So let me switch over to my slides here. Can everybody see that? All right. Thank you all for coming today. And I forget which number of our quarterly event this is now, but we've been doing this for about 2.5 years. So it's probably at least the 8th one or something. So for those of you that don't know what Shardus is, basically Shardus is software that you could use to create your own decentralized network. It's not, like smart contract where you just write, the smart contract code and then deploy it on a, smart contract platform. Shardus is for applications that need, their own network. So that's usually applications that have a really high transaction rate, and they want to ensure a high level of decentralization. So that's where, we've tried to make it very easy for people to be able to deploy these kind of networks. So if you're familiar with the space, with blockchain and cryptocurrency space, you're bound to know that there's a lot of issues in terms of scalability. A lot of the first generation networks, they can only handle about 5 to 20 transactions per second, and the second generation networks are able to handle a lot more, but they're giving up on decentralization. Whereas the first generation networks, they already kind of lost a lot of decentralization when it became, when mining pools started and there was a lot of consolidation. So scalability and decentralization are two very important factors that, are currently problems, and we need to address those. The first generation networks also had a lot of issues with using proof of work as the way of doing consensus, and that burned a lot of energy. And we're now starting to use proof of stake, and that's helped a lot. But there's still a lot of dependency on networks that use proof of work. Another issue is the ease of development. So if you actually want to spin up your own network, it's not going to be very easy. You'd pretty much have to start from scratch, or you'd have to settle for a network that isn't very highly scalable. And so that's another a problem for those that are wanting to create their own decentralized service. And as the ecosystem is growing, there's a lot of need for interoperability. So there's a lot of different projects, but each one is kind of siloed, and we eventually have to build bridges so that assets can be moved across these different chains. So Shardus's goals are to try to address these issues, and so I'll go through each one of those and how Shardus is addressing those. So with scalability, we're using what's called state sharding, and what that does is divides up the network so that if you had 1,000 nodes in your network, you might group the nodes into, say, like 100 nodes each, and so you have 10 shards, and so that allows you to process the transactions in parallel, so that you have more parallel processing, and you can process more transactions per second. With decentralization, it's really important that nodes are able to join the network in a permissionless manner, and also that one doesn't have to spend a lot of money and resources into becoming a validator or a miner. So it needs to be inexpensive. Now Shardus is being designed that way, but keep in mind that if you wanted to, you could also spin up a permissioned network using Shardus if you wanted to do that. To address the energy issue, we're using what's referred to as practical Byzantine fault tolerant consensus. So this has actually been around for a long time. It's very well tested, and it doesn't require you to have to spend a lot of energy to do the consensus. For ease of development, we've chosen to use JavaScript and Node.js because there's a lot of developers out there that are familiar with this technology. And so that makes it easy for anybody to be able to spin up and deploy a network and build the network. And for the interoperability, we plan to create bridges to other networks. So it'll be possible for any network that you create using Shardus, you can just add a module that'll help you, be interoperable with whatever network you want it to interact with. So overall, the way Shardus works is it's the core software from which many different networks can be created and deployed. So you can use it to deploy private networks, or you could use it to deploy public networks. For private networks, we have a licensing model where you burn Shardus tokens in order to obtain a Shardus license. For public networks, you need to give back at least 1% of your coins or tokens to the Shardus token holders. And that's kind of a win-win situation where when you deploy your public network, you can attract users from the Shardus community to your network, and those users also benefit by receiving coins and tokens on your network. So there's a lot of different use cases where Shardus could be used, on healthcare, voting, just sending coins, messaging, a lot of different areas where we're starting to see blockchain technology could be deployed and really disrupt the status quo. Now, one of the first things that we're going to be building with Shardus, our team is going to be building with Shardus, is called Liberdus. And so that's a decentralized network which provides the ability to do coin transfer. You can do end-to-end encrypted messaging between users. It also has a DAO for governance as well as for funding proposals that could be built using the Shardus network. And we've tried to make the experience really easy for users. So instead of having to send coins or messages using long addresses, you can just use usernames to send messages and coins, and it becomes really easy to do it that way. Also, if you're interested in running a miner and earning coins, you can spin up a validator node, and you can just do it using a Raspberry Pi or a VPS server, and it doesn't require spending a lot of money on GPUs or ASICs. And you can learn a lot more about the Liberdus project at liberdus.com. Now, the overall timeline for Shardus. So we've been working on this project originally from like 2016, but it wasn't until like late 2017 that we actually started putting a team together, and then actually started building the code. And now, as we're heading towards the end of 2020, we're to a point now where a lot of the components that we needed for this whole framework are there. And now what's left is really doing a lot more review and audit, and hardening the code, performance tuning, and so forth. And so we're hoping to be able to release the Shardus software in early 2021. And once that's released, then projects can start licensing the software and using it to build their own networks. So some of the technical highlights for this quarter, we've been keeping a testnet running for Liberdus, and you can try that out at test.liberdus.com. And some of you may have already created accounts there already. We've also redesigned the Liberdus user interface. We haven't deployed that yet to test.liberdus.com. We will be very soon, but you'll get to see that later today. We've also developed a Explorer that lets you see what's going on internally in terms of like how many accounts there are, how many coins there are on the network, how many transactions are happening, so forth. And also, we've developed a unique way to validate transactions. Currently, if you ever sent somebody a transaction and they don't believe that you sent it to them, you typically would send them a link to, like, say, Etherscan or blockchain.info or something like that, where they can look at that. But again, what we're doing is depending on these third-party services, a lot like how we depend on exchanges, to provide that service of verifying that the transaction was sent. If you really wanted to verify that on the blockchain, you'd have to run your own node and download the whole blockchain. So it's not possible currently with all of these blockchains to be able to validate your transactions using a thin client. So we've developed a way where you can actually use your thin client to validate that a transaction actually got processed on the network. So we'll be demonstrating that for you shortly. Another thing that we've developed is a MapReduce feature within Liberdus, so that you can collect stats across a sharded network. You don't really run into these issues if your network is not sharded, but when it is sharded and not every node is holding all of the data, you need to add features like MapReduce to be able to aggregate that data. And then also we've done a lot of fixes for enhancing the stability of the sharded network. And we've also made a lot of improvements to our Shardus command line interface tool. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Shahzad, and he's going to give you a quick update on what's happening on the business development side.
Thank you, Omar. That was Omar Saeed, our founder and chief architect on the Shardus project. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Shahzad Mathani, and I'm tasked with business development on the Shardus project, and I'll be going through some of the major highlights for this quarter. Going on to the first slide, the Shardus project has been extremely active and moving forward at good speed, especially given the confidence that the software is set to deliver. We are a small and active team that is extremely agile and collaborative, and have been growing, keeping in mind with the timeline that we are working with. As part of our business development, Shardus has been listed on various exchanges and swaps that gives the Shardus project credibility and visibility. It also gives individuals the ability to buy, sell, and swap the tokens. The tokens can be searched under the acronym ULT. This quarter, we added Hotbit and Whitebit exchanges. We also listed on Uniswap version 1 and now the updated Uniswap version 2.0. We're constantly engaging with prospective clients and looking at the projects to help them build their applications on Shardus. We have several potential as we firm up these relationships. As part of our social media awareness, today's world demands a social media presence. And in order to keep and grow our community engagement, we are enhancing our presence on various platforms such as Telegram, Reddit, Medium, LinkedIn, among others. Patents in the arena of blockchain are growing exponentially. And blockchain in 2020 had the maximum number of patents in any field. In order to protect the innovative process with Shardus, we are filing several defensive patents. On the next page, you will see an infographic that lists all the exchanges that we are associated with, and this is a growing list. We are also available natively on the Trust wallet. So these are the exchanges which I just mentioned. On the next slide, I would like to talk about the current projects that we are involved in that can successfully use Shardus. These implementations will give Shardus the visibility it needs. The African Payment Network is a group of African countries in that continent that are looking at a payment network that will help ease the movement of funds within their trading partner countries. Blood is a healthcare project that is looking at developing a patient payment system in accordance to US laws and are working with a large hospital group to develop this. Veripro intends to eliminate fraudulent and false job profiles and qualifications, thereby providing a robust employment verification system. Community is a out of South America that has global plans to use blockchain as the software of choice. As you can see, we are aiming for a global presence and see ourselves as an important player in the blockchain market segment. This segment has been growing exponentially and will continue to do so in the next decade. On the next slide, we will look at some of our existing collaborators and partners. For any organization to grow and succeed, collaborators and partners are key. Shardus is actively pursuing meaningful collaborations and partnerships that will provide solutions to the upcoming projects using the software. This will bring Shardus visibility and validate the proof of concepts on successfully completion of these projects. Some of our current partners in this growing list are the Arcadia Group, the Olympus Technology Group, and Mobile Programming. These partners will help work with us on the Shardus platform to develop applications on the software and implement the same at client sites. With this, I would like to invite our development team to demonstrate the new features of Shardus using the proof of concept that we are developing, namely Liberdus. Over to you, Aamir, and thank you.
Hey everybody, my name is Aamir Sayed. I've been working on Shardus and Liberdus since 2017. Today I'm going to try to show a little bit of what we've made this quarter, kind of demoed the new Liberdus web client and Explorer that we've created. So without further ado, let's get started. Let me go ahead and share my screen. All right, so if you've watched our presentation before, you're probably familiar with this image. This is the Shardus network that we have running on dev.liberdus.com. If you go to dev.liberdus.com/monitor, you should be able to pull this up. So one of the main things we made this quarter was the Liberdus Explorer. So Liberdus is an application built on top of Shardus. It's the first one that we've built. It's kind of like a proof of concept sort of app that helps us kind of make the underlying functions of Shardus better. But before, we used to have a web client where you can send transactions, spend tokens, send messages and whatnot. But this quarter, we created an Explorer. And what this Explorer lets you do, if you're familiar with Etherscan or like the Bitcoin blockchain Explorer, is that it kind of gives you a couple metrics about the network up top. So things such as total cycles, total transactions in the network, the number of accounts, how many active nodes there are, the total supply of tokens in the network. All these things are kind of done in a MapReduce way and shown as metrics at the very top here. So these two columns down here, latest cycles and latest transactions. Cycles are roughly our equivalent of blocks. They're not exactly the same, but they're kind of like that. This latest cycles column shows cycles as they're being created on the network. So I can go ahead and click one of those. And the cycle contains things like the nodes that have joined the network, nodes that have been removed from the network, nodes that have gone active. It also has partition blocks, which contain transactions. And if you click on the partition block, you'll be able to see the hash of the transactions that have gone through in that partition block. The other column shows latest transactions. And this is a listing of the hash of transactions that have gone through the network. When I click the details of one of these, it goes to the partition block that the transaction is contained in. And as you can see here, it doesn't actually show you the details of the transaction. That's kind of intentional because as a way of preserving privacy and as a way of helping us do transaction receipt verification using kind of like a HMAC scheme, which Kyle and Andrew will get into a little bit later. So as you can see here, we have 8 accounts and the total supply is 100. Each new account on Shardus gets 50 tokens, or sorry, on Liberdus gets 50 tokens to start out with. However, Liberdus has some housekeeping accounts for things such as voting, communication between two users. Like each conversation has its own account, which isn't really like a user account to store data for those type of things. So right now, the number of total accounts doesn't exactly correlate. Like you can't do this times 50 to get the total supply because some of these accounts are like housekeeping accounts. Up here, you can search for transactions by their transaction ID, which is the hash of the transaction that I mentioned earlier. And yeah, so this Explorer is something new that we created this quarter. It was kind of inspired by existing Explorers to show a little bit of like what's going on in the network at a glance. We think it's a good complement to the network monitor that we have shown previously. All right, so now that I've shown the Explorer, let's go and look at the new revamped Liberdus web client. If you go to dev.liberdus.com, you can actually follow along as I do this. So you'll see a get started page. Go ahead and hit sign in. And it'll prompt you for a username. So I'm going to go ahead and pick my name. And it should create me a new account in a couple of seconds. There it goes. All right, so the two main functions of Liberdus, as you've probably seen before, are sending tokens and the ability to send messages. Now, there's also stuff like more advanced functions such as staking, funding, like economy proposals and proposals for funding and that kind of thing. But we're just going to go over messaging and sending tokens today for the purpose of time. So let me go ahead and create another account. As you can see, this is Aamir. If you guys want to, you can send me tokens to the Aamir address and send me messages too. But I'll go ahead and create another account. sign in here, and I'm going to call it Aamir2 create account. All right, so now that I have my second account ready, let me go ahead and send it some tokens. So you enter the username that you want to send to, and Liberdus checks to make sure that's valid, just to, as an additional layer of protection. And I'm going to send 10 tokens. Go ahead and send that. All right, so this should go through in a couple of seconds. As you could, I'm not sure if you saw that. It might have been a little quick, but you can see transactions coming through in the monitor, and that was sent by my web client here. And let me go ahead and refresh this page. And the transaction should have gone through. There it goes. Sent coins to Aamir2. And it looks like I got some coins from Greg and Kyle and J-Raj as well. Thanks, guys. All right, so that was sending tokens. Now I'm going to send a message to Aamir2, and I see I got one from Kyle here. This is the new messaging interface that we've created. It's like your standard messenger, has a button to send new messages. I'm going to go ahead and type my second account. Select it from the list. It pulls up existing accounts, again, as like another layer of protection for the user. And then I'm going to go ahead and send myself a message. All right, send. In a couple seconds, that should go through, because this is also a transaction. There we go. I think I saw that one. And it should show up shortly. There we go. How's it going? And on my other account here, that should show up in a couple seconds. There it is. Got a message and some coins. All right, so as you can see, we kind of revamped the UI a little bit, added like a sidebar here, made things a little bit more responsive. The couple-second delay in sending transactions is actually intentional. That's for transaction validation purposes, like in our internal queue in the Shardus nodes. It's about 6 to 7 seconds. But going back to the Explorer, now that I've sent some transactions, you should be able to see those transactions show up in the Explorer, and there they are, latest transactions. Like I mentioned earlier, you don't see the data of the transaction. That's intentional for privacy reasons and for like the HMAC transaction receipt scheme that we have going on, but you can see the hash of it. And over here, because I created another account, I believe others have created them as well, they've gone from 8 to 16, and the total supply has increased in the network as well because each account added about 50 more tokens. But yeah, I think this covers the Explorer and the new UI that we've created for Liberdus. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Kyle and Andrew for a quick demonstration of the transaction receipt checking scheme that I mentioned earlier. All right, guys, take it away.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Kyle. I've been a developer with Shardus for just a little over a year now. And right now I'm going to demonstrate to you, along with Andrew, the transaction receipt verification system. So let me start sharing my screen now. All right, I'm going to start off in the wallet here and just something's on with this loading. Let me just refresh real quick. Time. All right, sweet. Let me send Andrew about 5 tokens. Start things off. All right, transfer submitted. Now, under the hood, this transaction is being created and signed with my private key before being sent to the network. So if we hop over to this transaction history tab, we should see it show up right here from Kyle to Andrew and the message I sent earlier to Aamir. Now, there's 2 actions that we can take on every transaction in our list here, but for now, I'm just going to hit this verify button. And we can see the raw transaction that was actually submitted to the network. Hitting submit here actually contacts the Explorer, searches for the receipt that corresponds to this transaction, and verifies that the transaction hash matches the hash-based message authentication code. So clearly, transaction was applied. And if we search for this transaction in the Explorer, like Aamir showed earlier, we can see the HMAC right here as well. So very easy to find transactions. All of this can be validated without the need of a third party. So like Omar mentioned earlier in his talk, with Ethereum, most people rely on the third-party Etherscan to ensure their transactions went through. So now I'll ask Andrew. Andrew, did you get my transaction?
Well, for this, the sake of this demo, I'm going to pretend to be a bad actor and say, no, I didn't get your transaction.
Oh, interesting. Well, could you show us? Actually, in order to prove that I sent this transaction to him, the transaction actually appears in his transaction history tab as well. So
yep,
you can check that right in front of us.
That's right. So this is my account here, and I'm going to go look at my transaction history. And actually, okay, there we go. So looking at my transaction history, and I do see a message at 1:30 p.m. And I can go over to the Verify tab, and this is pointing to the Explorer, and it'll let me do the on-chain HMAC verification of the transaction. And so if I hit submit, I get a response back from the Explorer server saying that this transaction was applied. So my attempt to say it didn't really happen has been foiled. It is provable that this transaction went through. Another kind of thing I might try as a bad actor is say that, oh, you only sent me one coin, so I changed this transaction data. Might be like, hey, Kyle, look at this receipt. You only sent me one. But plugging that receipt and sending it to the Explorer is just going to get a transaction not found. There's no way that you can mess with the contents of a transaction because of our HMAC verification system and our on-chain verification that we do on the Explorer server. So I'm going to stop my screen sharing. All right.
All right. So yeah, that was basically a demonstration of the verification. And now I'm going to pass it off to Greg to handle some Q&A if there's any questions.
Thanks so much, Kyle and Andrew. Great job on the demonstration of our verification system there. So far, we've gotten 5 great questions throughout the presentation. So it looks like we have a decent amount of time to answer them. I'm going to fire off each question in order and let different people answer them. So first question for Omar is from Leon. Omar, could you just bring up what the blockchain trilemma is and talk about how Shardus solves that trilemma?
Yeah, definitely. So the blockchain trilemma is something that Vitalik Buterin, who's the founder of Ethereum, put out there as a conjure that there's in any network, he says that you can't get all 3 of these things, which is scalability, decentralization, and security. Now, over time, more and more people are thinking that it's not like a theorem or something that's necessarily always going to be true. I think in blockchain systems, especially ones that are using proof of work, that might be true, but it is possible, and I think more and more people are starting to realize that you can actually have all three of those. Now, of course, security is something that, nobody can compromise on, right? So you have to have that. But then, so then that leaves you with the other option of, do you either want to have, scalability, or do you want decentralization? Now, there are projects, like I mentioned, some of the second generation blockchains that have increased the scalability quite a bit, getting in the thousands of transactions per second. But they did do that by sacrificing on decentralization. So these networks are based on the validators being selected by voting, or delegated, or by the community and so forth. But still, you have these well-known block producers and validators, and so you don't really have that full level of decentralization the way you used to, say, like when Bitcoin first started out, and just about anybody could spin up a computer and join the network and contribute resources to it. So but yeah, so Shardus is trying to solve that issue where we have all of these three things: scalability, decentralization, and security. So
Thank you, Omar. Shahzad, I think this is a good question for you. So if you just take yourself off of mute. One question asked was, what are Shardus's plans for marketing?
Okay, I briefly touched some of the marketing what we've started with in the last quarter. Now, as we move forward and we come to closure to the launch of the software, we would be intensifying our marketing effort largely. So I would lay it out in various prongs. One of them would be, organic grassroots community engagement marketing, focusing on developers and universities, where we've already started that. We're also looking at a very aggressive ambassador program that would be across various communities, where we want to, have different ambassadors across the globe. We're also looking at participation and speaking at various blockchain forums. We already had one last month at the Wyoming blockchain, and we would continue to expand that. Eventually, we will look at large-scale media advertising, online and print, to ensure that the product is visible to the general public, more importantly, to the B2B segment.
Fantastic. Thank you, Shahzad. If you could put yourself back on mute. I think for the next question, we'll ask Andrew. This question is, why is Shardus written in Node.js rather than Go? Isn't Node.js slower than something like Go?
Well, Node.js runs on the V8 backend and has been fast enough for our purposes, but that doesn't preclude us from porting our algorithms to other languages. So we're on Node.js right now, and that's a great choice for ease of development, and it's running great on these Raspberry Pis that we've tested before. But there's definitely there's possibilities that we can port to other languages in the future.
Thanks, Andrew. And if there's anything else anyone wants to add to that question, feel free to interject now. If not, the next question is, we'll put this one for Omar. Why does it cost to send a message on Liberdus?
So yeah, so all of the parameters on Liberdus are tunable by the community. So initially, we'll have a small cost for it, just to prevent spamming. And also the other thing that we're going to incorporate in Liberdus is using proof of work on every transaction that you send into the network. So with that, you could actually have like zero coin cost per transaction, but you'd be paying some cost in terms of proof of work computation that your computer would have to do to send in a transaction. So that's needed to prevent spamming, right? So you got to have some cost, whether it's actual coin cost or some energy cost. But as far as how much that cost should be, those kind of things are going to be adjustable, and the community can vote on those parameters for what the transaction fee should be, what node reward should be, and a lot of other parameters. So, yeah.
Awesome. I think it's really exciting with Liberdus how it acts as a, we have built features that enable it to act as a decentralized autonomous organization where we're putting the power into the community's hands to control different parameters on the network and vote on things like the cost of sending a message. So I think that's something really unique and something that I appreciate about the project. Another question, Omar, if you could just share your screen, is how can someone go about purchasing ULT if they would like to purchase ULT?
So, what do you mean, share my screen? Oh, to show the slide with the.
Well, yeah, or you could just, if you wanted to bring up like CoinGecko and click on like how you can go to Uniswap and access Shardus or.
Yeah, I mean, so the easiest way is, right off of the Shardus homepage. If you go to shardus.com, there's a token section there. So if you click on the token link, and we have a widget that connects into Uniswap, and actually there's a buy and sell button, and that's a widget that is actually allowing you to buy and sell through Uniswap. And so, when you say like buy or sell, it'll, bring up, pop up your MetaMask, and then you'll be able to approve the transaction and submit it to the chain there. And so I always prefer like using a decentralized exchange like Uniswap. But for people that are used to, centralized exchanges, Shardus is now listed on Probit, Hotbit, Whitebit. And so you could also, start using those. But yeah, and both CoinGecko and CoinMarketCap track the price and trading of the Shardus token, so you can check things there as well. So
awesome. Next question, we'll leave this one for you again, Omar, is so many projects from 2018 to now have had an ICO and sold, had a large token sale to raise funding and help advance the development of the project. Shardus hasn't had one yet. Does Shardus have any plans for an ICO similar to an IPO for, centralized entities?
Yeah, so when we were first starting up the project, we looked at doing an ICO, and we just thought that there were so many projects that were coming up that were abusing that whole ICO system. And also, when we talked to our lawyers, we found out that if we did do that, people from the US wouldn't be able to participate. And we wanted people in the US to be able to participate. I mean, we have a lot of friends and families that would be interested in getting the Shardus token. So, we didn't want to preclude all these people. And so, we talked to the lawyers some more, and we found that, the details of what is considered a security. And after analyzing that, we found that, hey, if the project never actually sells the token in exchange for some other kind of monetary value, that doesn't fit one of the first parameters of the Howey test. And so we've gotten a couple of legal opinions written by really well-renowned lawyers that are versed in the cryptocurrency space as well as in the security space. And you can find that posted on our website. And so that's the model we've been using. So it's been more challenging to do it this way because everybody expects you to go the usual path that everybody understands. And if you do something new and different, you don't fit in, right? So we're kind of like the ugly duckling, where people have not seen this kind of a model before, and so they're not used to it. But it works. We've been running the project this way for over 2 years, and our total market cap in terms of the amount of Shardus tokens that are out there at the 10-cent price is little over $2 million. So yeah, we haven't had to do any ICO to get that, and we've been able to fund it through friends and families and other individuals that are buying it on the exchanges and so forth, and supporting the token and the project. So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I think it's really exciting and unique how Shardus is, not really focused so much on trying to be a money grab and raising a lot of capital, and more so focused on the development of the technology, because that's what actually matters in this space. You don't change the world by raising millions of dollars for technology that doesn't exist. You change the world with blockchain by building, decentralized technology that is capable of making an impact on the world, and that is what Shardus is focused on. So I think it's a great model we have here, and hopefully that sticks out to our onlookers. And thanks so much to the community for asking these questions. They're all great questions. We have 2 more questions here that we'll get to quickly. Shahzad, we'll leave this question for you. Do we have plans to get listed on, more popular major centralized exchanges like Binance, OKEX, Huobi, or Bittrex? And if we do, what is the timeline for that?
Yes, we do. So in the short term, we have had a few listings in the last quarter, and as we move forward, we would be looking at other exchanges as well as we come closer to the launch of the software. So that is probably we would be looking at the major exchanges as well to get the Shardus UNT listed.
Awesome. Yeah, I would say probably more throughout 2021 in alignment, as you mentioned, with the completion of the Shardus software. Wouldn't really make sense for us to list on a major exchange now when, the token's primary utility of being able to license the Shardus software wouldn't be able to be used yet because the Shardus software isn't, the code isn't released yet to actually build these applications. Aamir, this is a good question for you. Has there been a mobile wallet built with Shardus yet? And if not, when can we expect it? So I guess you could talk about, how is Liberdus used from a mobile device?
So right now, the web client that I demoed, we've built it in a way to take into account people using it from a mobile device. If you go to dev.liberdus.com in your phone's browser, it should be, I think, like a responsive design where it's able to be used from your phone as well. Now, I think getting like an official application on the Google Play Store and the Apple Play Store, might be a little hard because I know they've been cracking down on things that are cryptocurrency related. So it might be that we may not have a official application in those stores for Liberdus, but I guess that depends on like a per application basis. But for now, you can use the web client from your mobile device's browser, and it should be like all good.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Aamir, Omar, Andrew, and Shahzad for answering everyone's questions. It looks like that's all the questions we have for now. So just wanted to thank everyone so much for the attention and the questions you asked throughout the presentation. One other question, final question here came in is, where does the funds of the company come from? Is there private investors or is this a self-funded project? Omar, I'll leave that question for you.
Yeah, so initially this is a self-funded project. But we do have a lot of friends and families that are interested. So when the developers receive their tokens for the contributions that they're making, it's up to them to, be able to sell it to whoever they want. And yeah, so that, you can sell tokens OTC to friends and families. And now, there's exchanges as well. So so others can acquire it as well. So and that's worked out. So that's basically where it comes from. And if people are interested in acquiring large amounts of tokens that they don't want to do that over an exchange or something like that, you know always you can always feel free to contact us, and we'll just put you in touch with a developer that may be looking to sell their tokens or something like that. But the one thing you won't be able to do is come to the project and say, hey, I want to buy $50,000 worth of Shardus tokens and expect the project to sell it to you. That won't happen. So we can put you in touch with some developers that have acquired the tokens, and maybe they could sell it to you. So that's the way it's worked out so far. So yeah.
Yeah, it's the model has really worked great, and I think the primary way to earn ULT being to contribute to the project really incentivizes quality talent to work hard and work towards completing the Shardus roadmap. And I think it presents a great opportunity to anyone else who's listening or viewing the presentation today. If you are a qualified developer, if you're a qualified marketer, if you have skills you can provide to the Shardus project, or if you're someone who's interested in something like our ambassador program, there are numerous ways to earn ULT and contribute your skills to an exciting project. So I'm the partnership manager here at Shardus. If you're interested in working with us, please feel free to shoot me an email. My email is greg@shardus.com. But that is all the questions that came in. Again, thanks so much to everyone for your attention and your interest in the questions and learning more. I'll pass the conversation back to Omar now for the final words and message.
All right, thank you, Greg. So yeah, let me just wrap it up by sharing my screen here and kind of telling you a little bit about what our plans are for this upcoming quarter. So on the technical side, we're going to be looking to increase the robustness of our archive servers so that we can have multiple archive servers running to collect and store the data. Also, we're going to be making some improvements to our validator servers, and then on the token side, we're looking to create a smart contract on the Binance Smart Chain, and then have a token bridge where the Shardus tokens could be moved between the Ethereum network and the Binance Smart Chain, just in case, like if things get crazy and in 2021 the transaction fees get ridiculously high. We don't want to be stuck on having to pay like really high fees to transfer tokens on the Ethereum network. And then the other thing on the BizDev side, we're working on an ambassador program and hope to bring that up this quarter. And we're going to be continuing to file defensive patents and get those secured. As Shahzad mentioned, there's a lot of companies in this space and that are filing patents now. And so the reason that we're filing these defensive patents is so that we don't get into a situation where we're not able to use the technology that we invented. So we're going to continue with that. And then, of course, there's a lot more to be done on the marketing side and increasing awareness and so forth, which we'll continue to do. And so with that, I'll wrap it up. You can find out information about us on Shardus.com, information about Liberdus on Liberdus.com. There's a test net at test.liberdus.com. And if you have any questions and want to reach out to us, you can always send the email to info@shardus.com and let us know if there's any way you think you could contribute to the project and want to get involved. We'd love to hear from you. And with that, just want to thank everyone for coming out and supporting the project. All right, take care, and we'll talk to you next quarter. Bye-bye.